Welcome back to Archean, episode 16 of season 1 playthrough. In the last episode, finally got a small lead mining facility up and running, and trying to find that 56% lead that was popping up. So then I thought about just changing the resolution of the scanner to be much more tight. Right now it's every 10 meters. So I thought, well, let's just clamp this down. We'll start at 1 meter out and we'll increment every 2 meters. Probably should have done every meter. And let's see if we can't track down that higher percentage of lead. And it should be right in front. I'm scanning the wrong way. Probably put it on narrow scan, would have been better. I'm going to speed this up to 5x while I screw around the code. Yeah, there's still some issues with this code. I am planning in a future episode to rewrite it from scratch. What I want to do is I actually want to start off with a very simple version. This one has a lot of complexity built into it, so I think I'm going to build a simple one designed for short range scanning, designed to quickly lock in and find something where you're trying to maneuver around. And then a different version for, or at least run a different mode where it has a much longer range scan. This is way too much work. All right, so we found some, it's like 11 meters right in front. Okay, 11 meters from the monitor. So that's not that far. That's like right there. Making more steel beam because the 12 I had are either sitting in my, I think sitting on the base over there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop this over here and let it roll. That worked out pretty well. So it rolled until it hit the sub itself. Since the sub is anchored, it won't go anywhere. Now I have a bunch of stuff sitting in my container, so I'm starting to make things I already have, and sometimes it's easier to make something. I'm looking through here, anything really useful to grab. You can always use a concrete. So what I need to do is put a concrete base on there, another anchor, and toggle it down. So I didn't want to rip apart the other mining base or mini base while I'm looking around for this higher percentage of lead, because in case I don't find it, then if I don't find it, I have to go ahead and put it back, which I'd rather not do. So we'll just go ahead and make some more stuff here. Yeah, we want to make walls, flatten it, boom. Okay, so we got that down. So we'll make a little area for, we won't get too fancy this time. We're just gonna just drop the switch on here, wire them up, lock it down. Oh, we got a mining drill. So we're just going to pop it here, and we're just basically going to drop it down and just look at and see there's like barely any lead there. And let's put it over here. And barely any lead. I know it's in front. Maybe it's really close to the front here. Put it over here. And nope. So let's look around with the, gotta hit the right key. There's 18% it claims. And there's like nothing. All right. 18 over there. Now it's funny because, well, actually not. Okay. Because right about there, the rocks say 18, but the mining location says, it could be because this is on a slope. And somehow the rocks are, because of this angle, the rocks probably don't represent the, or maybe don't represent the what's underneath, potentially. Okay, so I figure I go a little further out. We're going to pop this up on anchor, get that piece up. We'll anchor it back down. Let's stick it over here. And 56% lead. So we found the 56% lead. And I look at the rocks around it, and they're all like, 18 or 19. And I try a bunch of rocks, even small rocks. Oops, that was by mistake. I meant to turn off the drill, not unanchor it. So that was a oopsie. So since I found a higher percentage of lead, I'm just going to tear this base apart here and rebuild it at the new location. And we'll go pull these rocks out, which lightens it. So definitely the rocks in the container definitely affects the weight. Take all this stuff off. Not worrying about the wire right now. And cover our frame. And keep a nice, neat ocean here and remove all that. So, yeah. So I think the moral of the story so far is the rocks are not necessarily a one-to-one correspondent of what's underneath, at least for these. And I think this spot might be a really small spot of high, because I probably once I empty this location, if I move off, a couple meters around to find a new spot, it probably won't be as rich. I won't know that until I actually move the mining drill. This also implies that to build a vehicle that looks for good deposit of ore, you literally need a scanner, a short range scanner, and you need a drill. You need a drill hanging at sort of like the front of a vehicle, and have it constantly scanning underneath it. And once it finds a high percentage, to force the anchor of the craft down. So basically that's really the best way, I think, to do it. If my sub had a mining drill mounted at the bow, and then as I sort of if I set the trigger point as over 50% lead, and then sort of scooted around the area, once it found the high percentage from the drill to lock it, then I know where that spot is at. And yeah, I think that worked out much better. Actually, in the future, so I think I'm going to do in a near future episode, I'm going to rebuild my land mining vehicle. And I'm going to reconfigure it with the drill in the front. And with a short range scanner, because I need to go hunt for some more aluminum, and I want to get a higher percentage of aluminum. So I'll do something like that. Actually, I just thought of a suggestion. I might put in. What we need is a a deep ore scanner that operates right below it. So basically, it functions like a drill, except you don't have to have the whole darn drill. So it's basically a straight down deep probe scanner. And then with that, you could put that on a vessel and hover around without having this huge drill sitting there. So I think I'll post that as a suggestion. Obviously, all the code's already there. All they need to do is take a drill component, strip it down, look like a sensor, rip out the drilling function, just keep the composition return in it, and voila, you have a ore sensor, I guess we'll call it. All right, we're drilling, and now we have we got a little bit of uranium in here too. We're not really looking for uranium at this point, but got a little fractional about. Okay, my inventory's getting kind of busy here. So even though this was a lot of work doing all this stuff, I think I discovered some better techniques in the future to optimize this whole scenario. Learn that rocks are not always the best indication of what's underneath. Now, since I found a really good spot, I thought about putting a a pole all the way up to the surface, but I'm not really sure how deep I am because I don't have a depth sensor. Submarine version 2 will have a depth sensor. But I will put a beacon on here so I can find it again. And what I'm going to do is, to avoid having the drill drain the battery, I'm going to put the beacon on its own brand new high voltage battery. And I believe when I check, that's going to last like a couple decades of game time, something like that. So we'll plug that there, and we'll plug that in the beacon, and then we'll give it we'll call this something useful. And PB for med mine 1. And then we'll call this the 56%. Yep, that's a lot of hours. Now, this battery here is not fully charged, and I'm not going to put a computer on here to auto turn it off like the other one. I figured, well, I'm going to empty this out, and the battery is not that full, so we'll just let it drill out and live with it. It's only good for 47 minutes, so I might lose a little bit, but it's not like this is the only lead. There's plenty of lead in the area. And that's going to drill that whole container full of 56% or 53% or whatever it is. Lead is going to be a lot of lead. So what I'm trying to do is being cheesy here and try to put the lighter stuff in the container and leave the heavier stuff to be in my suit, since that doesn't count against the vehicle weight. Wonder if this will change in survival where you won't be able to do this anymore, and the weight, you almost have to. That would definitely change things around. Okay, so we have a better technique for the future for finding stuff. We need to rebuild our submarine to a new design. I think we're done here. Time to get back to shore. I'm getting tired of being underwater here. And it's gonna, maybe before we go, it's gonna go ahead and empty this out a little bit. Okay. Oh, before we do that, we don't want to do that yet. We want to get all the weight off first. and my cheesy ballast system where I just remove all the concrete. And we'll get rid of the wire and the battery and that concrete. Let's get rid of this wire and this battery. Okay, let's and grab a little bit more before we go. Might as well crush it while we're sitting here. And because we put all that crap in the container, we're sitting on the bottom now. So I guess we're slowly, maybe. Yeah, this is not good. So one thing, I do have aluminum on me. I could make some steel tanks or aluminum tanks. And by default, they're filled with, I don't know, are they vacuum? I guess they're vacuums. So if I drop some of those on for buoyancy, I could do that. I could probably put some more composites on the hull. So I'm thinking about making, but I think I'm making all the other crap. So now I'm like, okay, what's the heavy stuff in here? What's the concrete? Probably heavy. Mining drill is probably heavy. Battery. Maybe the plastic. Drill. Yeah, it'd be nice if you hovered over it and it showed you the mass of each item, so you can have a concept what's going on there. Maybe though the spool is pretty heavy. I don't know. Okay, let's see how that goes. Back in our seat and all right. So we're now at least going up. That's good. And you see how the thing just spins around, so we're kind of floating, and put the auto leveling back on as we start drifting. And what I'm doing here is I'm alternating between hitting, you hit the space bar, that's the up. So it runs the side props full bore to go up. But then we start tilting. So then I stop that and then I let the auto level compensate. And then I will hit the up again. Then I stop and let the auto leveling compensate. So what I need to do is that if leveling is turned on and you're going up or down, to factor that in and maybe probably put in more oomph on the tilt mechanism on the leveling to try to maintain leveling while you're going up or down. That's why speed goes up. You hear that engine kicks in. So I'm now powering back up, and then I get the tilt back. The problem is the way the up works, it assumes that the thing is level. And if I have what I need is like sort of an aircraft mode where it more flies like an aircraft underwater. And then I can just pull the nose up and power up using the rear props. Another improvement of the vehicle. All right, we hit the surface, more or less, looking around, and I'm just going to eyeball. I have a beacon on the base, and I could put a beacon on here and, get the information and track it that way. But I recognize that pile there, that pile there. So we're over here somewhere. So let's just get to the shore and then we can figure out where the base. Hopefully we should be able to see the base. And worst comes to worst, if I get stuck, I'll just build a beacon. And then, yeah, this thing doesn't do well. So I don't have a really good any ailerons on this thing, so I can kind of fly it. It's only going to need a toggle switch for flight mode, where I'm sort of gliding under the water, and then another one where, you know, more VTOL mode, where you're just sort of in a certain area and you just want to maneuver very closely. You want to be able to spin in place and, you know, back and forth, more like a car mode type thing, I guess. Hover mode. I think with that, so if I put that in, if I had a flight mode or you know, type mode, I turn that on, then I can sort of glide over there and use the ailerons for going up and down, and then having a depth gauge, that would be neat. And then you could possibly have it lock to a certain depth. In other words, always keep it maintained, like, you know, 10 meters under the water and just kind of glide under the water. Another problem is our props are, if I'm on the surface, the props are too high up and they're not in the water right now. So we're sort of like using air to push us, and we're not going very fast. And if I go under the water, then I get much better. So these props should have, to build something that goes both underwater and, you know, and pop on the surface, I need those props to be able to go up and down. So basically, I can if I'm like this, I can lower those props down. But that adds a lot more complexity. But it's showing you, you know, the pros and cons. If I'm underwater, I'm going much faster, but then I can't see where I'm going. Eh, 20, 24, 25 kilometers per hour. And because of extra weight, this thing doesn't do very well on the shore. No. Any future quote-unquote submarines I build, they will have wheels integrated on them. And yeah, what you really need, you need a vehicle that basically is a vehicle, a submarine, and a ship, and it can sort of. See, if I had like wheels on this thing, I could just roll up on the shore and zip down the shore. But if I go on the shore, then, you know, because I'm using just props, as small props as air push. Okay, I think the base is right over there. So I go up on the shore, and, you know, there's like nothing. There's like hardly any oomph here. I'm just dragging. So I decided, okay, this is a waste. So I'm just going to go put it back in the water and then zip down there. Where, versus I could just, I have those 4 wheels on me. I could just sit there, put the wheels back on, and roll down there. But I think at this point I'm getting frustrated with my crappy submarine design. So I'm just going to get back in the water. And now we're by the shore. We can actually kind of glide, sort of see where we're at, more or less. And if you would sort of glide down there, probably need some more. Another thing too, you need a lot more lights on a sub. You need lights everywhere, and have control that you control, like the forward lights and down lights, you know, up lights, whatever. So I have a lot more lights, but a lot more individual or area control of the lights. I don't think you can control the power from code. I think the power has to be set. But you could have 2 sets of lights. You could have low beam, high beam type lights. Yeah, it popped out a little too soon. Motor back into the water here. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Yeah, big seal trying to get back in the water here. And I'll go back over here, and then we're just going to power it up on this little area and try to get a little close to the base. And yeah, that extra weight is definitely feel that weight. Yep. Yeah, build a sub, put wheels on it. what I wanted is retractable wheels on it, and I played around with that a little bit, and so basically I can bring. It doesn't apparently it doesn't hurt the doesn't create any additional drag having the wheels out. They don't factor into the drag calculation, I guess, but. If you're going to make another submarine, it'll have a lot of gravy features in it. Alright. We don't need lights, we don't need leveling. So we're on shore. Those rear props are just spinning down. And let's get us connected to base power here, and we're going to take those extra batteries we have, we're just going to throw them up here and just daisy chain them in so they'll charge also. This whole sub's going to get torn apart. But we'll just leave it there to charge up. And the computer's pulled a little bit of power, but we'll let it go for now. Alright, we made it back. With a lot of crap in inventory. I need to get another container going here. And it's practically full too. I was thinking we need like a big container, like a silo type container. These containers are getting a little too small. Okay, so I need some room here. It's probably the wrong way to do this. Get rid of some of the stuff I don't need. Probably need that concrete. What I need to do is make a container. And just bring over the stuff I need for a container. Like the wire. Move some rocks out. I was making sure we had room for the container. So apparently, if the item you're making is already in your toolbar, it will add it there. If it's not in your toolbar and your inventory is full, it won't. It'll just stop. It will not make it because there's no place to put it. So it doesn't. It won't. Apparently, it will not fill an empty tool spot if your suit pack is full. So we got it. We have a. I decided not to mess with the current drilling operation crusher. I'm just going to build another container, put a crusher on it, and put another container for output. So this will be the input container, which has raw rocks in it. This will come in handy down the road anyway. And if there's a faster way of doing this, please let me know. Now this is sort of because, you know, I manually brought the rocks over, and my sub couldn't hold all the stuff. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting if they change this for survival mode, where this little cheesy thing I just did, you can't do, and you have to like haul this stuff around vehicles. That'll definitely make it a lot more interesting, because building a ship to carry all this ore around, that's going to be a problem. It has to be pretty darn big and have big buoyancy areas. Okay, now get the ore out of my backpack. We can go ahead and grab the useful things out of here. I'll put those built things down there. I'm going to leave a little bit of room to make something. Okay, we need to build a crusher. Let's go up to high speed mode for a little bit. Get another container down. We need to do some more creative wiring here. Put that over there. Plug this into here. Just make sure that battery's charged. And then we're going to need a conveyor unit, which I think the first we're going to make in this episode of this series. Item conveyor. We need one of those. We need that to pull things out of the input container. And you can do a filter on that. You can actually have pull just certain things out. But the filter is simple. You only have like one item you can filter on at a time. I'm not sure if you can put a mask on there or not. I'm not sure how useful a mask is. So this is the output container. So we're going to take some of the ore that we have, way too much of, like multiple stacks of. We'll put the extra stacks in the our output container. Thin out the our backpack a little bit. Alright, we got another crusher. 2 crushers now. So we'll kind of stick this over here. My base is getting a little bit chaotic here. Okay, so we'll put it like, and there's good enough. And we'll have the container go there to the input, and we'll go here to there. And of course, we need to power up the conveyor unit, so we need some low power connection for that. The crusher only uses high power or high voltage. Let's make a little area for our switch. Overdoing it a little bit. So there's some low power there I can tap off of. So we'll use that for there. And the switch will operate the conveyor and the crusher. And I'm all out of toggle switches. What if I left that in the, I thought I had some, I probably left it in the sub. Well, they're pretty cheap to make. And drop it there, turn it on. All right, so now we're crushing all that raw gold and lead ore we have. All right, so yeah, we getting someplace here. I think next we'll see what's going next. I think I'm going to redesign my little mining vehicle, taking what we learned from this little series so far, make some improvements to it, and make another trip for some aluminum. All right, until next time, see ya.